Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is the weekend's edition of Viewpoint on Dbs television, and it is our pleasure having you again. Remember, yesterday I said that you need to keep yourself warm before you leave your home, and today in the Douala we are having 26 degrees Celsius, and of course it's raining in most neighborhoods. In today's edition, we'll be talking about school resumptions and the role parents have to play in effectively preparing their children back to school. With us to discuss about this topic, we are having Apia Notch Avi. He is a digital marketer and an entrepreneur. He will be accompanied naturally by Mange Venashus. Good evening to you, Apia, and thanks for honoring our invitation. It's our first time hosting you.
Yeah, thank you. It's I'm very honored. It's a privilege for me, and I want to thank you very much.
We are welcome. Mange Venashus, a happy week start probably.
Good evening, Vanessa, and good evening to our viewers. Actually, we are happy that we've come to the end of another week, Friday, and we hope that the weekend will be a relaxing one to catch up and prepare for next week.
Exactly. Let us take the first part of the show. Once more, you are welcome back, televiewers. Is there anything parents should do when selecting schools for their children? Apia, will begin with you. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Mange Venashus?
Yes, Vanessa, there are things parents should.
There are things. And our last question, with COVID-19 still on the rise, should parents prepare for school resumption in such a context? Apia?
Yes, they should.
They should. Mange Venashus?
Yes, Vanessa.
They should. You are angry with your answer?
Of course, certainly.
All right. Let us take a debate, so stay tuned. Is there anything parents should do when selecting schools for their children? Apia, you think that yes. Naturally, we know that some parents or some people, before they select or they choose a school for their children, they will kind of look at the percentage in which the children passed during the GCE exams. Maybe they'll look at the sanitary conditions of the school and lots more other aspects that may want to push a parent to send their children to the school. But I would like to know, what are those particularities that parents should actually look for when selecting schools for their children, since you think that there are a lot of things to do, to put in place?
Well, I'm going to answer this question with the COVID-19 pandemic in mind. You know, there are a lot of things that parents have to take into consideration presently, especially now. The first thing is, one thing we generally should understand is, I don't personally think this academic year, for example, it's going to be like any other academic year that has to run smoothly. We might find ourselves in a situation where students will have to go to school for 3 months, 4 months, and then have a break for 1 month, and then go for another 3 months, then have a break again. So it's not going to be a normal school year if we are not very careful. So parents have to take into consideration so many aspects. For example, one aspect which applies in this context and might apply in any other situation, let's assuming that the COVID-19 was not even present, is the hygienic condition of the institution. Like how organized are the staff, how organized is the entire administration when it comes to the cleaning and measures that are being taken to ensure that the students and the pupils, if it's a primary session, are clean or prepared. Because the school environment is not just about learning, it's not about just going down studying some subjects, but it's about being clean, it's about moral upbringing,
being environmental friendly.
Exactly. Environmental friendly. Thank you very much for that. So the parents have to take this into consideration when they want to choose an institution or a school. And then now, with the COVID-19 in mind, we can say that parents should take into consideration like the teaching model for each school. For example, schools can make preparations for outdoor classes. School can make preparations for virtual classes. This is very important. So parents should take this into consideration. Is the school having any provisions for this? Is the school looking into this? If the students have to be home for 2-3 months, will they miss out from education, or will they continue to be educated? The parents have to take this into consideration. It's very, very important. So all of this matters when it comes to selecting schools, you know. And then the parents also have to take into consideration what program has been put in place to get the children up to speed. Children have been home for 4 months, 5 months, if I'm correct. 9 months. Thank you very much for the correction. And imagine some children might have forgotten what they've really been studying. So there's supposed to be something like, if you permit me use the word, a crash program that gets the children up to speed, that gets them rolling, you know, with the new year. They'll not just get into, let's say, Form 4 class and then start studying some geography or economics and then roll like everything was going on well. So their brains need to be tapped in and then brought to speed, adjusted, such that everything moves in place. Exactly.
All right, thank you very much, Ipia, for your viewpoint. Probably you add some in the course of the discussion. Mangevena shoes, adding to what Ipia just told us, what are some of those other aspects that parents can look into to select an institution for their kids or children?
Vanessa, besides the COVID-19, you know, we are coming to accept that COVID-19 pandemic, or COVID-19 as a disease, will become part and parcel of our societies. We don't have any time soon to say that this pandemic will vanish or will disappear. So we have to make all provisions to make sure that we accommodate or we live with the virus. And in that way, when parents are selecting schools for their children, they need to find out what are the barrier measures that the children will need to, you know, to adopt during this period if they are to stay off the virus. They must make sure that the children have provision, you know, for face mask. That is the first barrier measure that we all know. Then hand sanitizers. These children should have theirs, although there are calls that each school should be in possession of these items, but the parents should not leave them in the hands of the schools. It should be their responsibility to make sure that my child has his own face mask, my child has his own hand sanitizer. We need to sensitize these children to know that in as much as possible, I know it will be a difficult task, but in as much as it can take, we need to sensitize our children to know that we would be obliged to practice social distancing, which is not necessarily sitting in class, but even out of class. You make sure that you don't play closer to your friend. Avoid close contact with your classmates, with your friends in school.
All right. Thank you very much. I will just cut you a little bit short. I think you are taking us to the second questions. Should parents prepare for their children's school resumption within this context? But in the first question, we are trying to find out what should parents look for in a school to select.
Actually, Vanessa, you know, it's like these questions are interwoven. You know, when you are talking about what they should look for. Schools that are not ready to have to possess all these items, parents must know that it is their obligation. So if you think that you will rely on the school, then select the school that has such provisions. Now another issue is we look at from every indication we are likely drifting towards the two system of education in this country, to adopt the two system of education where children have to come to school in the morning, others come in the evening. Now when selecting a school, parents need to know that they need to take into consideration the distance of my house and the school. Will this child be able to leave the house in my absence, because you don't know whether a child will fall within the second group of students who would be going, or pupils who will be going in the afternoon. And in most cases, most of us parents, we are hardly at home in the afternoons. So which means we would leave the child in the house, the child will play along, and then in the afternoon, midday, that's when the child starts preparing to go to school. Will this child be able to get to school on time? Let's look at security challenges as well. Is the school, will my child need to cross the road before, cross the main road before getting to the school? So if such a school is that way, put that into consideration too, because at that midday or when the child would close in the afternoon and is coming home, who would help the child to cross the road and get to the other side, where in case where you are living here. If these are challenges that you cannot handle, it's preferable you select a school where you would limit such cases as much as possible. Select a school that is on the other side of the road, and then you see how you can cope. Vanessa, another issue is financial issue. We should not give a deaf ear to this question of finance. You know, the economy was hard hit during this lockdown period. Schools were closed down. Each school will be struggling to see how they will meet up with the debt. You know, so many teachers were not paid, and parents have been hard hit by the crisis as well. School fees will not be as easy as that. Paying school fees this year will not be as easy as it used to be. So I think parents should select schools that would be within their means, their financial means. Don't just select a school because your neighbor's child go to that school, or because you think that the uniform, the students look good, and you go and enroll your child when at the end of the year you will not be able to pay the school fee. So I think that parents should take all this into consideration and then see which school they can select for their child,
for their children or the students. Thank you also for your contributions. Going back home loaded with a lot of things that I could advise some parents back at home to adopt when they're selecting a school from for their children. Apia, adding to this point, none of you have touched the aspect of education in selecting the school for the students. Doesn't mean that they should not, parents should not look into consideration whether the school is well equipped for the betterment of the children to study, whether the school has all the teachers it needs, or should we keep that aside?
Well, it's not an aspect to keep aside. I was going to come to that, though not deeply. Of course, parents are already conscious that they have to look into the weight in terms of education. You know, how much knowledge, how capable is the school now. But I will always like to associate, especially given this period with the pandemic. The point I was trying to make, I wanted to really make, is parents have to take into consideration let's give an example with the primary schools. The school, do they have like, let me call it, playful courses? Do they have courses that is environmental friendly, that will make the children learn easily? Courses that have routines that can easily be applicable at home, because we want to find ourselves in a situation where what the children are learning in school, they should be able to learn at home, but not sit at home and say I want to study. But maybe when they are cooking, when they are doing games, you know, when they are watching TV, they should be able to learn. So parents should look at schools that we have a lot of schools that are already bringing things like that. There are courses that are like related into games, which help educate the children. So parents should take this into consideration.
Like associate the theories and the practicals.
Exactly, and make it look, let it be like some fun, you know, like it was a game, but they are studying. There are games for different subjects nowadays. If schools work on these and develop these courses into this way, it will be easy for the children to learn, because children are becoming lazy when it comes to reading. And of course we won't stop sending out knowledge because they are becoming lazy, but we can find other ways to help them learn, you know, without necessarily doing a lot of deep reading consistently.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes, Vanessa, I want to come back on this issue raised about looking at the academic standing of the schools concerned. We are living at a period, especially here in the littoral region, where it at times is a bit difficult to decipher to decide the true, you know, output of a school, because of this 100 syndrome that schools have adopted. Is now like everybody wants to score 100%, but then we are looking at what is the quality of this 100%. When you go around in some of our neighborhoods, you see names that have written with paint. This paint is not with chalk. Paint, which names that were there for 2-3 years. Yet, you know, the kind of publicity that most schools are getting to it is a kind of deceptive publicity, because they want to deceive our parents to believe that this school produces 100%. It is not all about 100% that you produce. It is about the holistic formation that you give to the child. It is not that you can graduate a very brilliant devil. You can graduate a very brilliant devil, but we need a morally upright citizen. Your child may pass in this B and is morally well brought up. that child is better than the best student in the country who lacks morale. Remember, we are at a period where moral education is on a decline in our society. And I think that the accent should be on the morality that we give to our children rather than the 100% that schools would score. So I don't think that the parents should not go in for those schools that advertise we scored 100%, we scored 100%. Find out what is the output from this 100%. Let us go in for the quality, not quantity.
Not quantity.
Yes, let us get what they produce, because you can have students who pass and they can barely. Vanessa, we're talking about here primary school, secondary school. We have university graduates who cannot speak English. We have university graduates who cannot write a simple application in English. They are graduates. That is, if such schools should boast of such, 100%, then there's something wrong. Let us go for the quality. Parents should look at the output of this school. What do they graduate? Morally upright citizens or intellectual, you know, they call it intellectual giants and moral dwarfs. So I think that we should go in for such moral qualities in our society, Vanessa.
Thank you very much for your contributions, gentlemen. Hope that those watching us back at home are grasping all the points that we are raising here on set. Question 2: with COVID-19 still on the rise, should parents prepare for school resumption in such a context? Pierre, you think that parents do have a lot to prepare in regards to school resumption and within the context of the coronavirus pandemic? It's number that the cases keep on skyrocketing globally, because in Europe you see them announcing that they will resume school in September, but later on postponing. Some have resumed schools, and here in Cameroon we are still to resume in October, come October.
You see, yes, parents should prepare, like I said at the beginning, because being in a school environment is not just about studying some physics, maths, economics and all that, but you see the environment where a student is seated together with a teacher, with his peers and all that, gives that child other benefits. It doesn't just come with educational benefits, there are emotional benefits, there are social benefits, there are health benefits that come with being in such an environment. And research has shown that children who lack in-person education, like they don't find themselves in that environment where they are with other children, they begin to experience a lot of social distancing. Personally, they are not very friendly, they are not very used to associating with others. And
that camaraderie within a classmate or friends
it's lacking, and it's a problem. And if children are not in that environment where they are with their friends or with their teachers, it will be difficult for the teachers to be able to identify, you know, loopholes in terms of let's say the child being emotionally disturbed, you know, or the child some deficits that might lead to the child maybe experiencing tomorrow some emotional abuse, or maybe getting involved in drug abuse. For example, imagine a child that visits school every day, and he has a teacher that, let's say, monitors him, but he or she doesn't know, you see, and he realizes that child starts, maybe when he leaves school, goes somewhere else, or is behaving different in class from what he or she knows originally. It will be easy for that teacher to call the attention of the parents. But if that child is at home, and maybe when they send him to go do 1 or 2 errands around the quarter, that's when he uses an opportunity to do whatsoever he has to do, nobody will notice. Nobody will be able to draw the attention of the parents. So that's one reason why, despite the COVID-19, parents still need to prepare for their children to go back to school, because that environment is very necessary. There's not just the educational aspect, but the social aspect, the health aspect, and so on. So it's very, very important. And while these children are in school, the care that is being taken by the teachers also matters, and it frees them. Mr. Venatius mentioned the point that I would like to come back with. It frees them from the risk of some accidents. Okay, now in another sense, from the risk of some accidents. Now imagine that your child has to be studying at home without your absence. Who takes care of the child? Imagine your child is at home and you say your child is going to be learning, or whatsoever means that will be applied for your child to learn. Who takes care of the child while the child is studying at home? Nobody. But when the child is in school, he has the guidance of the administration, the entire staff, the teachers. So this is very important. Reason why parents still need to prepare for these children to go back to school.
All right, we remain together in the debate. Mangavena Shoes, when we talk of preparations, should parents prepare financially only? Should they prepare psychologically only? Or in what aspects should parents prepare? Because many parents now like this, they'll be thinking all of the financial aspect, how to grab money to pay their children's school fee.
That forms part of the preparation, Vanessa. We are talking about school resumption within the coronavirus context, and we are saying that the numbers continue rising. But if you look at the situation in Africa, precisely in Cameroon, we are coming to the fact that coronavirus will become a household name, another household disease like malaria, like cholera. We have been surviving with it. When this virus was announced in March, schools were closed down. By the time we had 5 cases, we are talking of thousands of cases now, but then schools are reopening. It is just to prove, or just to say that parents need to prepare. Parents need to prepare, because children will not end up, with this fear. The society will not end up with this fear of a pandemic that, in our own case here, remember, some countries out of Africa are already thinking of a lockdown because yes, they are talking of a second wave of infection that is coming up. But then I think that in Africa the cases have not been what we expected. Remember when it was announced, World Health Organization announced or prophesied doom for Africa, and things never happened that way, which means call it destiny, call it fate, call it God has spared us from the havoc of this pandemic. So the society should not be on a standstill. We are talking about children who were out of school since March this year, which means they have been at home for 6 months at home.
6 to 7.
Yes. Now, if we keep prolonging them, it may become difficult for them to come back to study, because they have been used to this laxity. Ms. IP was talking something about parents, taking care of their children. Vanessa, this is just the time that some of us parents, understood what it means to play our role as parents when it comes to child upbringing. Because we have been used to getting up in the morning, preparing the child, drop the child in school, and we go to work. The child will be coming back around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, but then we are already coming back. You see, the time that you spend with your children is very small compared to the time that teachers spend with the children. Now, we had I call it the misfortune to live with our children for 6 months at home. No way. Parents were already crying of disturbing in the house, consumption, eating, because being at home, they just eat anyhow, and now we will not keep on in that situation, because we end up not being able to put the children within a certain kind of standard of discipline. Because when they go to school, they receive a kind of formation. He was saying that formation is not only classroom work. There's another aspect of formation that our children undergo while they are in school. Remember, we say in school they receive the formal education. They need to give them standard ways of societal norms. At home, we do the upbringing that we normally parents do, but then once we keep them away, deprive them of that standard norms, I will bring up my child according to my own learning, according to my own ways of how I see things. He would bring up his child his own way, you would bring up your child, and then that conventional way of behavior in the society will be lacking. So I think that even with the health hazard that we have, parents need to prepare. Now, we are talking something about finances. Finances, like I said in the first question, everybody was touched by this pandemic, and everybody is limping economically. So it's high time that parents, even with that, we need to learn to cope, because like I said, there is no way we will say that coronavirus will end next month. We are not saying that it will end next year. It may prolong like this to 5 years. Are we going to remain like this? We need to adapt. Everybody is adapting to survive with this pandemic, in as much as we are adapting to live with it. Let's adapt with the educational system also to live with it. It will be a big challenge, not only for parents, but for the educational community, Vanessa. If we are talking of distancing measures, barrier measures, distancing measures, I tend to see the kind of headache educational community will have to practice that distancing measures, especially in a city like Douala, where we have classrooms that are, you know, practically room size for some schools. So how are we going to practice distancing measures? Even with a double system of education that we are planning to put in place, how would it even function? Because we will need to talk about recruiting teachers. More teachers. Yes, we'll talk about putting in place infrastructure, so those who would have the land and the facilities to increase the classes, add classes. Yes, we'll need benches. All this put together is a lot of headache for them. So I think that, you know, like I started in the first part, I was dangling with this question, because we have to know that whatever happens, schools have to go. Whatever happens, children have to go to school. So whatever happens, we need to prepare. How severe coronavirus may be, we need to go to school, Vanessa.
All right, thank you very much, Mange Venashus. Ipie?
I just wanted to bring one small statistics on the table. Children have been home for 9 months. Six months.
6 to 7 months.
Thank you very much for that correction. Statistics show that in developing countries like ours, 3 months of school closure can make the children lose worth a year of learning. So 6 months, it means these children have already lost 2 years of learning. You understand what it means? Now imagine that if they have to stay for another 3 months or 4, so that will be 3 years of learning that they will be losing. And like he mentioned something, it's about the environment. You see, imagine that parents have to be home with their children because the children cannot be in school. They are trying to take care of the children. You realize that the children, maybe the parents will be quitting their jobs to stay home with the children, and this could lead to a great economic crisis. We don't want to find ourselves in that kind of a situation, but I think that the children going back to school is the right thing, and like Mr. Benashi said, we need to begin to realize that it's time we start accepting this as something we will have to live with
for a long period of time.
Exactly, and we find other ways to live with it and ride on with our activities.
Wow, very, very instructive. Thank you very much, Apien Notch Avi. I like the name so much. I don't know why. Mange Vedashus, thank you also for your contributions. Wish you all a happy weekend.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Parents back at home, hope that you must have grabbed one thing or the other in how you should prepare your children to resume school back in October. Make sure that you give them all the necessary things they might need to go back to school within the context of the coronavirus pandemic. Do have a blessed weekend in the company of programs on DBS television. See you on Monday, God willing.